They say a man dies twice, once when his breath leaves his body, and once when his name is spoken for the very last time. But standing here on the morning of my 70th birthday, looking at this vintage, silver-framed bathroom mirror in my empty 5,000-square-foot colonial home in Connecticut, I realize there is a third kind of death the moment you look into your own eyes and realize you have no idea who is looking back at you. The silence in this house is so heavy, it actually woke me up at 5 in the morning. A stark contrast to the decades I spent running on caffeine and adrenaline, chasing the next big promotion on Wall Street. I lift my hand to touch the cold glass, tracing the deep wrinkles around my eyes, the silver hair that replaced the thick, dark mane I used to possess when I was 25, and suddenly, the reflection ripples like water. The 70-year-old version of me, Arthur Miller, is no longer alone. Staring right back at me through the glass is my 25-year-old self, wearing a tailored navy suit, a gleaming gold Rolex tightly buckled around his wrist, and an arrogant, untouchable smirk on his face. That kid in the mirror thinks he owns the world because he just closed his first six-figure deal, and he is looking at me with a mixture of pity and confusion, wondering how his magnificent, ambitious future turned into this fragile, lonely old man. I want to scream at him. I want to shatter the glass and tell him that the shiny German sports car parked in the driveway 40 years ago was just an expensive cage, and that the six-figure salary he is so proud of is nothing but a down payment on a lifetime of regret. That kid in the mirror is checking his expensive watch, completely unaware that he is about to miss his daughter's first steps because he is too busy being important in a high-rise office building in Manhattan, trading precious, unrecoverable American moments for a title on a mahogany door he doesn't know. Yet that the shiny gold fountain pen he uses to sign those multi-million-dollar contracts won't be able to write a single line of a meaningful story. When the music stops and the parade finally passes him by, leaving him alone in the quietest room of a house that was built with wealth but completely starved of want, the kid in the glass flashes that confident smile, shifting his posture as if he is preparing for another flight to Chicago, while I step back into the dim hallway, the contrast between our worlds suffocating me. I walk down the grand spiral staircase, every step echoing through the vacant corridors of this house, where 3,200 square feet of premium hardwood floors now serve only as a stage for my isolation. I wander into the living room, my eyes falling upon a dusty cardboard box tucked away in the bottom drawer of an antique oak cabinet, and as I open it, my fingers brush against a stack of old letters tied with a faded red ribbon. On top sits a yellowed envelope postmarked 15 years ago from Santa Monica, containing the final letter my ex-wife Sarah wrote before she packed the last of her suitcases and left for good. Her elegant handwriting cuts deeper than any market crash ever could, spelling out words that I was too deafened by the roar of corporate success to understand back then. She wrote that she and our daughter Lily had waited for me at the dinner table for 200 nights out a year, watching the roast chicken go cold while I sat in 75th floor boardrooms, sacrificing family milestones for the hollow applause of shareholders. The letter ends with a sentence that now burns holes into my conscience, stating that I was so busy building a kingdom that I forgot to inhabit it, leaving them to navigate a world where my physical absence was matched only by my emotional coldness. I look out the double-hung windows of the pristine, two-acre emerald lawn that I paid thousands of dollars to maintain, remembering how my father used to ask me to cast a fishing line with him on the local pier on Sunday mornings. I always pointed to my leather briefcase, telling him that time is money, that I had a legacy to secure. But when he drew his final breaths in that sterile room at New York Presbyterian Hospital, he did not ask about my net worth or my seat on the executive board. He merely looked at my tailored suit with gentle, sorrowful eyes, and whispered a question that has haunted me every single night since. Asking if I had found what I was truly looking for in those towering glass skyscrapers. I had no answer for him then. And as his grip loosened from my hand, I realized that all my accumulated wealth could not purchase a single extra minute of his presence. Nor could it buy back the decades I threw away while pretending to be a giant among men. I dropped the letter back into the dusty cardboard box and walked slowly toward the glass French doors that lead out to my empty stone patio. The morning sun is just beginning to clear the tops of the Connecticut oak trees, casting long, golden beams of light across the cold floorboards. And for the first time in 70 years, I do not rush to check my emails or review the morning stock market reports. I simply stand there, feeling the warmth of the American sunshine hitting my worn face, closing my eyes to deeply inhale the crisp morning air, suddenly aware of the incredible miracle of a single, uninterrupted breath all my life. I assumed I was a good man because I never stole a dime, worked 80 hours a week to provide a massive house, and followed the standard rules of the corporate world. But as I watched the dust motes dance in the sunlight, a terrifying question burns its way into my soul. If a person spent their whole existence chasing shadows, ignoring the human hearts right in front of them, and mistaking accumulation for achievement, how can they say they truly lived at all? I know I cannot go back to that bathroom mirror and drag that arrogant 25-year-old kid out of his delusions. And I cannot rewrite the chapters where I left Sarah and Lily waiting in the dark while I chased the parade that has now completely passed me by. But the sand in my hourglass is still falling. This morning is still mine. And as I look directly at you, the person listening to my voice right now, I see the dangerous reflection of my own past youth blinding your vision. You think you have an infinite amount of time. You think you are young and untouchable. And you treat your relationships and your mortality like distant problems that can be solved after the next promotion, the next paycheck, or the next big milestone. But the truth that cost me 7 decades to acquire is that nobody knows when their internal clock will suddenly strike midnight. Not the wealthy executives in Manhattan, not the healthy athletes in California, and certainly not you. So I challenge you before you turn off this video and plunge back into your frantic, noisy routine to ask yourself the one question I was too terrified to face until it was almost too late. If this very second was the final page of your biography, would you be proud of the empire you built? Or would you realize you spent your entire life constructing a magnificent monument to a completely empty soul?